Right Side News. Bring you the right news for the right side. I'm Jim Hoel, and I am your voice. Thank you and good evening. Welcome to another edition of the Hoel Report. Tonight's top story: the left's new low, attacking our future. Uh, Getting into this story, as I'm sure many of you are aware by now, over the weekend at the annual March for Life. Uh, a high school, Covington High School, was up there, and the media was there, and camera phones and all that was out. The media was there. Well, all of a sudden, you have these teenagers from Covington High School, and they're walking through, and they get stopped by a gang of radical leftists and violent radicals. And one of the students, a kid by the name of Nick Sandman, was stopped by a Native American, Indian tribal leader. So all this kid did was stand there. He stood his ground with his red MAGA hat on, and he didn't do a damn thing. He just stood there, and he smirked. Well, um, this story, in the span of about 12 hours, spread like a wildfire, the likes of which I've never seen before. These kids, these kids were targeted by the liberal mainstream media. They were the drive-by media took over and vilified these kids. They were attacked. They were threatened. They were called Nazis. They were called racists. They were called white supremacists. They were called any name in the book that they could use to destroy these kids' reputations. They were vilified on national television, and even worse, on social media, where you had a bunch of adults in the fake media and a bunch of adults and the political activists who resorted to issuing death threats to a bunch of teenagers. So that's where we're at in America right now, folks. We have a party and a group of people who have resorted to issuing death threats to a bunch of teenagers. All because they were wearing Make America Great Again hats, and they happen to be attending the annual March for Life. It's a pro-life march that happens every year in D.C. It never gets the coverage that any of these other women's marches get. However, this year it did, but for all the wrong reasons. Because members of the fake media lied. They flat out lied. They said that these kids were a mob, that they were chanting racist things, that they were insulting black people and Native Americans and Mexicans and chanting racist things and throwing stuff and acting violent. Well, the video evidence of the event shows otherwise. Thankfully, videos began to surface showing the exact opposite happened. That, if anything, that these kids were attacked by a group of violent leftist radicals, surrounded, and this one kid, this Nick Sandman kid, who decided to just stand his ground, was vilified all over TV and social media, all because he stood in front of a. Let's be honest. All right, this guy's off the reservation. All right, you already had CNN and the Washington Post. They've already all falsely claimed that he was a Vietnam veteran. He was not. He falsely claimed to have served in Vietnam. He did not. So this guy stood there off the reservation, banging his drum away and taunting this kid. And all this kid did was stand there, give a little smile, and that was it. And just for doing that, you had death threats issued to a bunch of teenagers in a high school that had to be closed due to bomb threats. This is the nature of what the left has become today. And it wasn't just the left this time either. There were several far-right outlets that also ganged up on these kids, and it turned out to be completely untrue. And so it wasn't just the left either. You had several far-right publications that were hammering these kids and lying about them. But the left's completely lost their mind. That is what they're resorting to now. Attacking children, teenagers. Issuing death threats to teenagers. When really, in reality, those kids, those 16, 17-year-olds, they look like the biggest adults there. These kids didn't do anything wrong. I even said earlier today, that Red Hat. What's his name? Nick, I always forget his name. Nick. I call him Red Hat. He handled that situation better than I ever would have during my high school tenure. I guarantee it. I know it. That kid handled that situation with more class than I ever would have at that age. And that goes to his maturity. So, I applaud him. And he did a heck of a job keeping his composure in a dangerous environment, mind you. They could have turned hostile. It did turn hostile. Thankfully, nobody was injured there. However, the death threats came later. But that kid handled that better. I thank God that my high school wasn't the one that was there, because in my day, I don't think we would have handled it that well. I think we would have probably gotten rowdy, and we wouldn't have handled it the same way. It's a testament to the class and the integrity that these kids showed, where they kept their cool. And instead of falling victim to the left's trap, they didn't take the bait. And what do you know? The drive-by media still decided to lie and trash these kids and totally and completely try to destroy their lives. We have 15, 16, 17-year-old kids from this high school, Covington High School, that now have to fear for their lives because countless death threats have been made to them on social media and various outlets, which once again, Jack and his stupid liberal leftist platform refuses to address. I mean, Jack, for God's sake, man, will you get off your ass and do something? I mean, how many times do we got to tell you? You are a traitor. You are a disgrace. You're a liar. And you ought to be ashamed of yourself. You are allowing death threats to be made to teenagers by social media, Twitter accounts that are still not banned. No action has been taken. Nothing's being done. And you just let it go on. It's like I said. I mean, I am very, very, very close to just saying, fuck this shit. I'm deleting Twitter. On what day was it? I believe it was Tuesday. I said, you know what? I'm going to give this till Friday. And if this shit doesn't start changing, the crap that's going on Twitter right now, I'm just going to leave. I mean, and I wouldn't really care. I have fun on Twitter. I think it's a great time. Sometimes it's serious. Other times it's really funny. But like I said before, when the bad starts outweighing the good, that's when people start leaving. And sometimes you just got to walk away. I mean, seeing this crap that is so un-American, it should make every American's blood boil. You have adults people who are supposed to be the adults who have resorted to violence, issuing death threats. You have members of the liberal media, CNN, MSNBC, the Washington Post. You have members of their publications threatening to punch these kids in the face. You had an SNL writer offer to give a blowjob to anyone who punched Red Hat in the face, which I made a very good counter offer, in my opinion, but I'm not going to get into that on the air. But yeah, an SNL writer offering sexual services for someone to punch a teenager in the face who did nothing wrong, mind you. This is how crazy and how sick and deranged and just morally corrupt these people are. The violence, the hatred, the rhetoric, and now we have this issuing death threats to minors. I couldn't imagine, being 16 years old, going to I went to a Catholic high school. We never went to that particular march, but we did things. I'm pro-life. We did things that with pro-life charities when I was in high school, and I went to a Catholic high school. I could not imagine being 16, 17 years old, not expecting any of this at all to happen, and then for your life to be turned upside down. And to now have to worry and look over your shoulder every time you leave the house as a teenager, when kids these days at that age have enough on their minds. I mean, I'm not that old, but, I couldn't imagine being in high school today. I mean, you think it was hard when I went? It hadn't gotten any easier. And now these kids have to worry about some idiot or some lunatic. And believe me, there are people who are sick and crazy enough to do this shit. I mean, I take it seriously. There are people out there that would probably go and do harm to these kids because the mainstream media lies. They pay people to lie. And it's outrageous. It's un-American. How they get away with this shit is beyond me. There are two options in my mind. Either they really are that careless, or they're just plain evil. To not have the wherewithal or the foresight to see the damage that they could do to these families, these kids, communities. You had the mother. I saw a mother on the air crying, saying that these students were targeted because of their religious beliefs, because of what they stood for, and because of the color of their skin, which was white. Now, how often do you hear that? How often do you hear that? How often do you hear that people are now being targeted because they're white? Because it sure as hell is happening. It never gets reported, but it sure as hell is going on. And that's the truth. These kids were targeted for what they stood for what they believed, pro-life, and for wearing Make America Great Again hats. And because they were white. So you have some tribal elder, fake Vietnam veteran who never served in Vietnam, grandstanding. And then you have the media come in and claim that these kids abused an elder and and tried to commit violence towards him, which there was never any threat to him. I don't know where they even came up with that one. And just lied. And then when they got caught, they tried to cover it up. And that's how evil these people are. They think they could get away with it, but they didn't. It's really unbelievable. In fact, the Military Times even released a statement saying that this Indian tribal leader it was not a Vietnam War veteran. He never served in Vietnam, and he was never even deployed. So right there, you have you have kind of stolen valor, in my opinion. I mean, I never served in any branch of the military, but I could imagine that real Vietnam veterans are kind of upset about this. You know, be like me going to the bar and saying, "Yeah, I served in Iraq." Sure, yeah. I mean, just lied. And this guy, I mean, this guy's off the reservation. Let's face it. I mean, this guy looks like he doesn't even know what planet he's on. I mean, he's banging away at a draw. I don't get it. I don't know what bought a Indian tribe to a pro-life march, but whatever. But the bottom line is the like I said before, and I'll keep saying, the media in this country really, really ought to be ashamed, and they could add this to the list of things that they should be absolutely ashamed of. And you could add that to the list of reasons why they're not trusted in this country anymore. They're just not trusted. And we'll keep seeing examples like this. This will keep happening because they're going to continue to do this shit. No doubt in my mind. But it really is a new low for them. For the Democrat Party, for the left, and not just the left, some right leading publications and institutions too. In my opinion, this was an absolute disgrace. If you're an American, this whole event, an absolute fucking disgrace by all parties involved, except for the teenagers who acted like the only adults there. It was made to seem like you had a mob of teenagers roaming around, breaking shit, insulting people, making racist comments, and beating up minorities. But really, all you had was a bunch of Catholic school kids laughing. Yeah, sure, they might have laughed. One kid smirked. I mean, it's been called the smirk of the century, apparently. I mean, for God's sake. A kid stands his ground and is, a little half smile, and he is tormented and vilified and called a Nazi, a racist, and is just trashed for the last 3 days in the fake media. CNN, MSNBC, NBC, CBS, ABC, all of them. They have all tried to either spin the story in a way that makes the kids look bad, because they still won't retract their statement. They've either tried to cover it up or just spin it, instead of just telling the truth that this whole thing was made up and none of this really happened. And you're using one video clip to show one side of the story when then several of them came out showing the exact opposite, and none of them retracted it. None of them apologized. Instead, they went on and attacked these kids, and you got family members receiving death threats now. You have the high school having to be closed. And even the high school itself apparently is throwing these kids under the bus, saying they're not allowed to talk to the media, and they still haven't apologized for the way they initially handled it, which I believe they threatened to expel all of them for something that turned out to not be true. An absolute lie. And I just don't get it. I don't understand how in the hell crap like this is allowed to fly in the United States. You know, and like I said in the very beginning, the title of this is The Left's New Low, Attacking Our Future. When you resort to violence or threats of violence or threats of murder against teenagers, come on. I mean, come on. I mean, what in the hell? You got to be out of your damn mind. Making death threats against a bunch of teenagers who did nothing wrong. I mean, these kids did nothing wrong, really. I mean, we were worse in high school than they were. I mean, like I said, thank God that my class wasn't there. I know several guys that probably would have screamed at the obscenities at the top of their lungs. I would have been one of them that probably in on it too. I'll admit it. I would not have handled it with the same class and integrity those kids did. So really, it's a testament to their character and integrity that they handled it as well as they did. And it's a testament to the utter carelessness and lack of integrity and just plain evil that the liberal media and all of them should feel right now. Because this is something, and I'll tell you right now, if any harm comes to these kids, any harm at all, I will make it my mission to ensure that those responsible, I will rain a shitstorm down on them, the likes of which they have never fucking seen. Mark my words. And you know what? I'll have help doing it. Any harm comes to these kids, these innocent kids, there will be hell to pay. Because when you start issuing death threats, that's shit I take seriously. And when you start attacking the innocent, that's something I take personally. I don't like that. I don't like it when the wicked attacks the innocent. And that's why, people need to wake up. And, and they are. They are. Like I know, average ordinary Americans will see right through it. They know the truth. And it's just really something that when you become that morally corrupt, to resorting to death threats against teenagers, high school kids, kids who have enough to worry about their own future, and now they have to worry about somebody coming into their house and murdering them. Lighting their house on fire, some idiot shooting them up, because these leftists are crazy enough to do that shit. So now you got to worry about that, and and the security it's going to need to be provided, and it's outrageous. And they've gotten what the liberal mainstream media has gotten away with this shit time and time again. I mean, you had Ferguson, the Battle of Ferguson. It's about 7 or 8 miles from here. Where I used to live in Clayton, I had military Humvees parked within 100 yards of my house. And that all started after Mike Brown was, it was a tragedy. And the fact that they left him in the street is a different story. But the lie started when CNN came down, found Mike Brown's alleged best friend who was like 10 years older than him. I don't know how. I don't know that. I really don't believe that was Mike Brown's best friend. I really don't. But CNN came down, and all of a sudden he had his attorney Freeman Bosley. So he had already lawyered up, and then all of a sudden he goes on CNN, and for the first time you hear the hands up, don't shoot. And that set off about 9 nights in a row of rioting, and then another complete night of hell in that November when they released the grand jury verdict, and destroyed the town of Ferguson. So, I don't know how some of these people sleep at night with the damage they've done, through their lies and deception, paying people to lie for a story. Damn, the consequences be damned. You got death threat. You had Ferguson, 9 nights in a row of riots and the town being burned down. From that, you had all the fake news from, all the election and shit. Now you have death threats being issued to teenagers. So that just goes to show you that these people and these corrupt and publications and leftist media organizations, and they all have utterly no integrity at all. They have no integrity. They're all liars, and they should all be ashamed. And for this, and I'm telling you right now, this is already going on. There's going to be legal consequences to this, and I strongly believe it, and there should be. There's already being, they're all lawyering up. I think they should. I would absolutely. I would sue the shit out of these people. I mean, for I'm talking punitive damages. You have death threats being issued to teenagers, minors, mind you. And now, what are the families supposed to do? All because these leftists, lying leftists, liberal media organizations of fake news decided to create. It is fake news. They created a story that was a lie. Made it a national story for the last 3 days, and it still is. It's still on TV. This has been going on for 3 days, and this happened on January 19th. This happened over the weekend. It's unbelievable, folks. It really is. So, like I said, it appears that the left has hit a new low, and it's really not good. And they better be careful. The Democrat Party and DNC and these leftists, they had better watch it, because they're getting very, very close to a line that they do not want to cross. Mark my words. And I mean that sincerely. They're getting extremely close to a line that I don't believe they want to cross. Because if they do, all hell could break loose. And then you're really going to see something like which this country's never seen. And they're getting to that point. They're dangerously close to crossing a line that they don't want to cross. And once they do, there is no going back. So it's up to them. It's up to us to keep reporting this, but in the end, it's going to be up to them. And if they cross that line, I'm not going to feel sorry for a damn one of them, because they will have deserved it. This is America. This is my country. This is your country. This is supposed to be our country. But instead, you have people being treated like second-rate citizens, outcasts, you know, they're being treated like less than human. And it's all because of their religious or political views. And that's just not right. It's un-American. This is the land of the free and the home of the brave. And right now, those freedoms are being threatened by dying media that will stop at nothing to try to destroy this presidency. I mean, hell, they're already blaming him for this. We had that, Alyssa Milano came out and said that wearing the red Make America Great Again hat is the equivalent of the white hood of the KKK. One of the dumbest things I've ever heard. So she needs to shut her damn mouth. I mean, come on. Yeah, the red MAGA hat is the same as white hoods, according to Alyssa Milano. I mean, you have people calling for them to be banned. I mean, this is not like the Star of David or whatever that the Nazis made the Jews wear. This is a red hat that says "Make America Great Again" on it. And somehow it's being called a racist symbol. It's a goddamn red hat. Now, I'm very meticulous about my hair. I don't really wear hats, but hell, I'd wear one. And but to call for them to be banned, sometimes I wonder what direction this country's headed in. And I just pray to God that we don't head somewhere where we can't come back from. I thank God for the president that we have. I thank God for his leadership. But what the kind of and at an increasingly alarming rate that this crap is going on. Sometimes you worry that eventually we're going to cross a line that cannot be, a bell that cannot be unrung. They're getting dangerously close to crossing a line they don't want to. And once that happens, I don't know if I want to be around for the boom. So, that being said, it's an un-American disgrace. And it is a national outrage. However, it's not being reported that way on, these liberal networks, but we're here to report the truth, and you'll find that we report the truth. So, it's just sad. It really is, but what could you do? Other than just keep fighting. Stand your ground. Like Red Hat did, Nick Sandman. He stood his ground. I admire the hell out of the kid. At that age, just to have the wherewithal at that age. Yeah, I don't know how old exactly he is. I'd say probably 16, 17 years old. But just to have the restraint and the wherewithal and the composure to not lose his cool and to not be intimidated by these thugs. Good for him. I, for one, hope that he's one of our future leaders someday. Guys, I think he'd be a good one. Much better than this guy who falsely claimed he was a Vietnam War veteran, who never served in Vietnam and was never deployed. So, I don't know which narrative you're going to choose to believe, but, I think it's pretty clear who's telling the truth. So with that being said, these are tough times. Tough times call for tough people. So we just got to keep fighting. That's about all the time we have for tonight, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for the Wednesday, January 23rd edition of the Hoel Report. for the Right Side Network. Please, please, please like, subscribe, share, and follow. My Twitter handle is at JH as in the Hoel Report. For the Right Side Network, I'm Jim Hoel, and I am your voice. Thank you. Good night.